Thanks for joining us on another episode of So What's Next? I'm your host, Jeremy Madore.
And I'm your co-host, Kristen Smith. And we are sitting here with
Thea Houghton.
And Thea, you join us in what role, what fashion today?
We can talk about all of them if you want. There's a few.
Yeah.
So
that's perfect.
I like to be well-rounded, I guess.
Rattle them off for our audience. What's the gamut that you're covering these days?
Sure. I am a transaction coordinator for Matt Straight Real Estate Solutions with Coldwell Banker. And I also own a staging business, Houghton Styling and Company. And it's a business that goes beyond staging, product styling and home design and the whole gamut.
Yep. Wonderful. We're very happy to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
We've had you on our other podcast, and it's always a pleasure talking to you and kind of catching up and seeing what you're up to and where you're headed and stuff. And
super fun. I always have fun in the studio.
Yeah. You definitely have a place in our heart around here.
Same.
You do.
Yeah. You were with us from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been with us for quite some time.
I remember first meeting you was it 2017, I think?
In Matt's office.
Matt had you into the office to talk about the real estate photography. Mm-hmm. And from there, it's been a pleasure to watch you guys grow too. Just see you get this studio and
that was one of Keith's first interactions in an office environment. Speaking with realtors and being introduced.
Oh wow!
Because he was new at the time to Madore photography, and essentially he has at least half of the reins these days as far as his purview and his what he's involved in, and between him and Danielle here at the office, that's 90% of the daily driver, right?
Yep.
And so to go from that, it was just he and I think at the time.
I think it was just the two of you.
And I think I may have had Mary, my previous admin. I think she was with us as well, but that was more of a part-time kind of thing. To go from that to the company that we are today, and the second brand that we're now, that we've now launched, and further ideas that we can kind of thresh out here today. It's been a journey, and it's nice to have seen that growth happen for us while also consistently working with agents such as yourself, and seeing how you guys have adapted to the market changes and different job roles that have come and gone over the years and stuff. And it's just just growing alongside a neighbor.
Yeah, so. It's very true. And you guys are part of my A team too. When I have a listing or something, it's always, there's no question. And it's such a pleasure to work with you guys always.
You make it fun.
Yeah, same.
You make it fun. It's always always laugh, and it's never forced. It's just a natural interaction. Mm-hmm. And I think that we understand each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really well. And I know that, life comes and goes as far as, the changes that happen, but, who you partner with and who you align with for values, that needs to remain true.
Absolutely. So there's definitely been some changes over the years, and consistency with friends is strength for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were so thankful when we started Next Level, you helped us a ton. You were awesome at helping us come up with a vision for the office itself, and we were so thankful that you gave us the ideas, but you also let us be part of it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
People come in all the time and they're like, this space is amazing.
Yeah. I can't tell you the amount of people who are like, oh, I love to have an office like this.
Yeah. But it's you guys too. It's just knowing and understanding each other, and me picturing you sitting in a space daily.
Yep.
Trying to make it comfortable and usable, and, having things that you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should have our business cards here.
I think we should.
Yeah. I need to make some new ones.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Do you need a new headshot?
I probably do need a new headshot.
There you go.
I don't want to be in 30 years having the same headshot as I do.
No. We have a headshot event coming up.
Yeah, on Wednesday, the 20th.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay.
That well before this launches.
Yes.
So sorry guys, but we do host regular headshot events here at the studio. So definitely be in touch with us if you're looking to update your headshot and you don't want to pay full value. We offer a discount during our headshot events, and it allows people to mingle with other people at the same time, and we open the studio so that it's a easy in, easy out kind of thing, and becomes a full day experience for us, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of fun. Yep. So yeah, can you just give us like a brief history on your career? And
I don't know how brief it's gonna be. I can make it brief.
How show us the story arc.
So a little like path, I guess. I guess I'll just start from college.
Yeah.
We went to college.
We did.
Same place, same
together.
time.
Absolutely.
And I started.
Did I know that?
We didn't know that.
We got, it was, I think when we were designing the space.
Yes.
You knew someone.
Yeah, I knew Karen. It was Cooked at the time, and Jen.
Yep. I think it was Jen that we made the connection.
Yeah, and we went to high school together, myself and Jen and Karen. So I changed my major. I originally wasn't in graphic design and communications. I was in teaching. Mm-hmm. So I was, even though we're the same age, I was in the design classes like a semester behind them. So yeah, we didn't figure it out until I think, and then we started talking about how we knew Matt. And Matt went there. It was like this whole like, whoa.
Yeah, it really was funny. And we knew like all the same people.
And that's where you met Matt?
No, I've known Matt since second grade.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
we've been like besties for 40.
Matt, I don't actually mean that. I'm sorry.
And where did you guys go to school?
We went to Julie Country Day School in Leominster. It's now the Boys and Girls Club, and then St. Bernard's, and then Fitchburg State. So just like the whole way.
So you both had the same path. Mm-hmm. You went to. Oh wow.
Yeah. Yep. We did. Yep. So
very cool.
Like family. He's like a sibling to me. So yeah, it's great. So I started at URI. We're not going to talk about URI at all. That's off the table. Yep. So I came home. We'll just start there. I went to Fitchburg State, and I actually started off in early childhood education. Yep. And because my mom is an early childhood educator, and I was like, I don't really even like kids. I don't know what I'm doing in here.
Sorry, Jack. Sorry, Mason.
So that, except for her now
children.
I mean, just
I get it.
At that time in my early 20s, or 19, I don't even know. It just wasn't a thing. So when I went there, Matt had introduced me to some friends, and then Nate Crooker, we also went to high school with, and he was in the film program. And so then I started like meeting people in there, and I ended up doing photography. Yep. So I really liked that. I'm a visual person to begin with. I'm not great at executing with the camera, but I knew that I wanted to be involved in the photography process somehow. Sure. So I worked at a studio in Rhode Island after I graduated for a little while, doing like weddings and portraits. And it was fun. It was fine, but it was just nights, weekends, the life was,
it's a burn.
It's a burn. Yeah. Totally. So I came back home, and I went back to Fitchburg State to get my master's in applied communications. So it's more of like a human to human contact, organizational communication program, marketing, that kind of stuff. Yep. And after
more like a PR, I'm guessing.
PR. Yep. Yeah. I actually was, so after I graduated, while I was going to school, I was working at TJ Maxx in Leominster. Yep. And after graduation, went to the home office in Framingham, into the media relations department.
Aha. Okay.
Yep. So.
And in comes Thea.
Here I come.
That's good. All right.
I already loved TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and then it just
who doesn't
exploded. Yeah.
Where's Danielle? We need to get her on here.
Right. I know. So I worked in the media relations department. I worked on the store openings, relocations, stuff like that as the public relations person. And then I would also shop for magazine placement. They'd send through a request. We need white button-down shirts. There's a huge story on this, whatever. Oh. Go out and shop it, pack it up, send it, which was really fun. And I did that for, it's like 10 years maybe. Mm-hmm. And then I moved up to Portsmouth for 3 years when John and I got married. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I resigned from TJX and I started with an agency in Boston as a assistant stylist. So that's how I started into the styling world. And then I was commuting back and forth from Portsmouth to Boston, and we ended up moving back down to Massachusetts. And I did the styling from 2011 until COVID. So it was great. I loved it.
What kind of companies did you work with? Like there?
Right. I should probably get a little more detail.
No, it's okay.
LL Bean, Home Goods, TJ Maxx and Marshalls, Timberland. Then I would go into the Back Bay, which was the worst commute ever. I think it was so bad.
She still has nightmare.
2.5 hours just to get to the Back Bay.
Sure.
I had a broken back by the end of that shoot. But I would do on figure, on mannequin type stuff with athletic wear and whatever. I really liked doing all of it.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, I lost that business. And then when it started everyone was using stock photography and whatnot.
Yeah.
And when the studios opened back up, that schedule wasn't going to be working for me anymore. It was, get up, leave at 6 a.m. and get home at 7 p.m. And I just couldn't do it with the kids anymore.
Well, you also probably adapted your life to a different routine during the time of COVID, and you started learning to work without having to do that.
Exactly.
Right. And that's, I think, by and large, a lot of people went through that overhaul. And it really allowed for people to really question how they were doing what they were doing and why they were doing it.
Right.
And the return to everything it became an opt-in scenario. Right. Whereas before you had to intentionally opt out of it because it was that everyday time to make the donuts. Right.
Yeah.
And so then we all learned how to make our own donuts for the most part. And we had more options available to us because our eyes got open to how we were living prior.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. Once I did have that, in the beginning it was a little scary because I had no income.
Terrifying.
All of a sudden.
Terrifying.
It's just like literally on March 13th.
Yep.
It was a Friday. It was Friday the 13th.
I remember.
It was a half day.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. That was it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But that's when actually Neil Fredette reached out to me and I had already been doing seller consultations for Matt. So I was also an agent with Matt at the time.
Yep.
In 2017, I got my real estate license and was joined Matt's team. I was his on-staff staging person for his sellers. So I would go and do the seller consultations. I didn't really go back and do any staging at that point, except for maybe some accessory stuff, but not the full.
You gave direction as to what was necessary and left them with
Exactly.
their instruction sheet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then Neil Fredette reached out to me kind of at the beginning of COVID, I think, in 2020, and said, "Oh, do you do vacant stagings?" And I said, "Yes, I do." I just started buying furniture.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
His was sort of a half. I purchased some furniture and then also rented some. And just looking at the cost of what it is to rent furniture, it made me feel terrible to, just have to give that invoice to someone.
To pass that along.
As a real estate agent, I also know what the commissions are, and it's hard to use that much of your commission on something like that.
Sure.
So I started buying furniture, and then I was working with Neil, and then started doing vacant stagings for Matt. I just kept buying more and more furniture, and I can't use my garage, or my basement's pretty full. So I have it all organized in different areas of, category and everything.
Yeah.
And then it grew from there. And like you were saying, once I saw that I didn't have to make that 2.5 hour commute and could put my kids on the bus and, that whole thing, it was appealing. So
absolutely.
Life-changing.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So between staging and real estate and being Matt's transaction coordinator, things are, it's been growing, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's funny. Your migration, if you would, from working in Boston to working more local taking your own path upon yourself versus putting it in the hands of a corporation or a freelance agency or whatever it might be. It just, it's very, it's an echo of what I've experienced myself going from, full-time corporate employment to working for myself and building what we have today. And what I try to do when I'm hiring people is really kind of assess what do they actually want to do with their life? Not, I just need money. Right. Because it's not, obviously we work so that we can gather an income and we can live our life. But if your work is not also supporting your life other than the income, if there's not a fulfillment or a derived value from it, why are you doing it? Right. And what we want to do is we want to align with people who find value in what they're doing on a daily basis and not just treat it as a job. Right. And it's not so much the job versus the career distinction. It's more along the lines of, is it a part of you that you sacrifice to go do? Or do you actually derive benefit from what you're doing and therefore it becomes a part of you because you want it to? Right. Are you letting yourself stay there or do you want to stay there? And you were, prior to COVID, letting yourself go to Boston. Right. It's not that you necessarily desired that drive or maybe even desired the work itself or where you worked. It was more along the lines of, it was a means to an end. Right. And then your means to an end dynamic shifted when you were opened to options that you otherwise may not have considered as a result of circumstances. Right. And that's really powerful. Because if it's happening primarily because life situations force it to happen, there's nothing wrong with that per se. Right. But we need to remind ourselves that each and every day we have the option to do it ourselves. Right. And as intimidating and fear striking as it is, it's a necessary part of overhauling our lives and changing and adapting. Absolutely. Because if we're not doing it on our own, someone else is doing it for us. Yeah. Right. And which would you rather do? Would you like to pilot your own life or let it be piloted by somebody else and you're just permitting
Absolutely
it?
Pilot it. Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are afraid to take those steps because there will be that gap in time that things are tight or things are hard or, and if it's a mistake, you can always go back and right. Or find, if they're not going to take you back, you find someone.
I was terrified when I first became self-employed. We took our down payment on a home and we started a business instead. And the deal was between Jen and I said, all right, this is how much we have. If we get down to 1 month left of money, I will take a job. And I put some irons in the fire just to see what was out there, threw my resume at some applications and stuff. And I went on some interviews here and there, kicked some tires and nothing super serious. But then we got down to the wire. And this was our first winter market. I didn't know that was a thing. I became self-employed November 1st. November 1st. Yeah. Bad decisions, right? Yeah. But I just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. I couldn't do it anymore. I literally had fallen into a state of despair at the job that I was at. Which
is even worse than it's so unhealthy.
Right? Yeah. And so we threw this money at trying to make it work. And I think late February rolled around and a bunch of contracts came in for weddings because, Valentine's Day had come and gone and people gotten engaged. Is that a friend? Can you hear that? Wow, we have a very loud kid there. But what had happened was, we had experienced our first winter market for real estate in conjunction with the long delay between the end of wedding season and the beginning of the following one. Right. And maybe, I could have sat down and thought about that in advance, but I hadn't, clearly. And so what ended up happening is as we got to the end of February, I was biting my nails. I'm like, this is really close. Yeah. And I went on some job interviews and the interviews, I was offered a job and on the way home, my heart's beating out of my chest. And I'm like, this is just creating anxiety for me right now because, and I didn't have that label for it, because I knew that this isn't what I wanted or needed in my life. It's what I was maybe willing to let happen if I had said yes to it. But all of the indicators for those companies that I interviewed at just would put me back into the same seat that I had already been sitting in, just
Right,
in a
yeah.
different boss, you know? And that's not what I desired for myself. And that's not
Right.
what I think the universe itself desired for me,
Right.
you know? And so I just stuck it through.
Yep.
And
Did you have that fear though, or that, not guilt, but how do I say no to this
yeah.
for my family?
Oh, especially
Yeah.
because so we had our two oldest at the time.
Yep.
And at the time we were renting my in-laws' house because they had just gone through a divorce and they were going to lose the house. And so we were basically paying their mortgage in order to live there. My mother-in-law was there still. And so we were living with her technically, but we were paying for everything just to kind of limp it along a little bit. And so there was a lot riding on that.
Right.
And so to see all of that come into question, so our living situation, her living situation, our livelihood in general.
Yeah, kids.
You know,
Yeah,
and
you gotta
kids,
feed the
you know,
kids.
and
They're
there's some,
expensive.
They are expensive.
there was some very real, there was some very real adverse effects that would have been experienced had I, you know, not been able to gather some sort of income.
Right.
You know, and so to go from gainful employment that was misery to everything's a question
Yep.
to the possibility of going back to miserable gainful employment again, it was just like, you know, there was no good decision there, right?
Yeah.
And so it was full of terror and
Yeah.
fear. And truth be told is, you know, what happened was, you know, early March came around. And of course, that's what spring market really starts getting going. I got a phone call from a realtor. So got some quick money right there because, you know, those were short-term income jobs,
Sure.
right? And then I started booking some weddings and I got some contract deposits and stuff. And so there was some seed money, some guarantee of a pad and stuff like that. And then everything just came right out of a nosedive, you know, and very similar to, you know, what we experienced during COVID, where there's that whole like collective, everyone's holding their breath to see what happens. And then on the other end of it, the people that really were innovative and stayed on top and were able to make better decisions in their own lives
Right.
are the ones that exited in a much more, this is what I want for myself kind of
Right.
basis, you know? So anyway, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the people that had the resilience and had the passion for you know, you're not doing exactly what you quote unquote went to school for,
Right.
And neither am I.
cares?
But we're like completely.
I didn't. I'm not.
But we're completely passionate
Right.
about, you know, even just the design field,
Right.
And like you knew that you wanted to keep going,
Right.
You know,
exactly.
it's like.
I have to say too that just from the photography training, and then doing the commercial commercial styling, I guess, and working with the art directors who are just so specific about a wrinkle or
Sure.
a tassel or it has helped so much with staging. I can walk into someone's house and just scan the room, and whatever catches my eye and makes me stop, it's got to go. Because you just want buyers to
Oh, that's interesting.
just
keep
focus on the
going.
space of the
so
room.
you come into a room with a higher level of discernment than the average person. right?
Correct. Yep.
And if your discernment catches something, then it's an issue, period. Right?
Exactly. Because, I mean, mats on the floor. You really don't want to have a mat in a bathroom because it pulls the eye, you know, those kind of things. I mean, it's just whatever would distract me from a room versus what's on a shelf. Because you can put things on shelves and they can still be, you know, just you fly by them. But if there's something that's a bold color or or if it's just kind of like off kilter or off center or whatever, too close to something else, it'll stop your eye. And that's what you don't want buyers to do. You want them to get in there because they love that space. They want to walk through that room.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so what you're in possession of really is a skill set that was provided to you or offered to you that you chose to adopt over years of working in a more structured area and learning from people that had similar, you know, somebody might say that they're OCD skill sets, right?
Exactly.
And that's not bad.
No.
Right. Because it really made them shine in their profession. Right. To me, you know, I don't think that walking into the room, I would see nearly what you see due to the fact that I'm seeing it from a different eye.
Exactly.
From a creative standpoint, a different eye. And so my own values won't project onto what you're doing, right? It's like my oldest brother is a finished carpenter. He loves refined design. He loves being able to construct like custom built-ins with actual purpose, not just boxes.
Okay.
And so like really refined kind of approaches. And to him, working in a 30 seconds or a 64th of an inch is his game, right? And he and I are building an Airbnb together, and he's doing framing, and that's rough carpentry where 64th of an inch isn't going to mean squat.
Yeah.
You know, if you catch it within the quarter inch, you're fine.
Right.
But it's driving him nuts and it's driving me nuts because it's not refined enough for him and is way too refined for me. Right. And so that's not to say that anything is bad about either one of our approaches. It's that we're doing a job that is either over my head or underneath his position, right? And so what I see as an issue is to him not, or vice versa, right?
Right.
And so it's all about who is walking in the room, right? And so what you need to do is you really need to go in there with the most critical intent so that the average individual walking in there experiences no shift in negative behavior whatsoever.
Correct,
It just remains neutral plus all the time.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Are there times that you would intentionally put something somewhere that you want their eye to go, or you always want it to flow?
If there's, good point. So if there's a feature, you know, if there's something that's really cool about the house, or, you know, a mantle, a fireplace mantle, or, you know, something like that, or some other kind of, if it's a historical home and there's something in there that's worthy of someone stopping and kind of noticing it.
Sure.
Yes. Then I'll definitely
call attention to it.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming there must be times that people have pushback against that. Like they don't want to put their stuff away, or they don't, or do they pretty much rely on your
I can always
expertise?
tell when I walk into a house if it's going to be something.
You can feel it.
I feel it. Cause you know, I think I said the last time too, that you can, you know, the stagers coming over, I mean, that's already intimidating.
It is.
And you know, you watch the HGTVs.
It's probable, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, in some areas it's get everything out of here that's yours, and we're going to spend $10,000 on staging and bring, and it's just not necessary. If you can use any furniture, and all you need to do is modernize sometimes the decor. You don't
You
have
just said
to.
some fighting words there for some people that I know.
Uh-oh.
No, I love it. I love it because it's a contrasting opinion to what I've heard. Right.
Okay.
And so there are stagers who go in with a very specific set of ideas and are fairly immovable. But what you're referring to is relative staging.
Yes.
For the most part.
Exactly.
Right. Adaptive staging. And the statement of you don't need to use specific furniture, but you just need to adapt to a more modern feel. And I would probably extrapolate that to say something more relative to the space. Right.
Exactly.
Or responsive to the space.
Right.
That's a very different way of life than some other staging feedback that I've heard.
Okay.
So not to say one's bad or good.
Right.
It's just those are two very different approaches or two different ways of thinking.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I can always walk in and say, you know, sellers will say, obviously I need to get rid of this couch. It's like, you know what? Let's keep the couch here. I'll just, I'll bring in another point is, if there's a color in the house that is, I mean, I'm not talking like bold, like hot, bright green or something, but if there's an older home or, if we're in the 80s and 90s, there's a lot of wallpaper still in my house. I'm just going to disclose that. I'm not like against wallpaper or anything.
It's coming back.
You almost, it is actually. It is. You almost need to embrace it and include it to create that visual.
Call out the elephant in the room and work with it.
Yep. Don't
versus
fight it.
fighting it. Yeah.
Don't bring in, mid-century modern into this wallpapered room from the 90s. It's just working with whatever's.
Yeah, don't bring in this whole IKEA contemporary setup with the wallpaper.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I know that. So we actually we did the Beyond the Listing podcast yesterday.
Okay.
And one of our guests that we had on, we were talking to her about staging because she's a very avid believer in the value of staging. And whenever we walk into her homes, the staging individual that she works with has a very, specific set of ideas that she walks in with, but she's also adaptive with the client and everything. And one of the things that we were talking about is where to draw the line with what you're asking your customer to do, right? And knowing, playing the ball as it lies and knowing what you're capable of doing and giving them a good, better, best kind of scenario. And maybe a priority list to work off of instead of these absolutely have to get done from A to Z kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Because it's already a stressful experience as it is to sell a house, much less really replace your way of living for an undetermined period amount of time. To appease the opinion of one individual who claims to represent the masses. Right. And that's not to say that the opinion's bad or off the mark. It's that it's an outside opinion it's an opinion. It's presented in a very sterile way a lot of times, and because it is about commerce, it's about, trying to hit a mark, right? And sometimes those marks aren't able to be hit by the homeowner because it's just so far out of reach for their living style or their lifestyle in general, right?
Exactly.
So, but converting that messy home office into a full-fledged bedroom, that's a challenge for some people, making it a nicer looking office, not as much of a challenge anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's ways that you can meet them in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I think, and going back to the, maybe sellers feeling intimidated, going into their space and, maybe they're feeling that you're insulting their different
judgy.
And I always, if I feel that when I first walk in, I'll address it right away. I'm just going to walk around. I come in as a camera lens. I'm looking through the camera lens and, basically what I'm going to do is, there are those obvious things that everyone talks about, items on the countertops and whatnot. But that I'm just here to look at the house and help you put away anything that's just going to, distract people from looking at the space. We want them to focus on the room. And it's not because your aunt, Sarah gave you that porcelain kitty cat with a,
I love the string of words that you just put together at random. That's fantastic.
I almost said your aunt Peter, but I was like, that's not even. That's not going to work.
Aunt Sarah and a porcelain kitty cat. That sounds legit, to be honest with you. Yeah, tchotchkes, right?
Exactly.
And the thing about it is that it's amazing what. A good set of throw pillows and some new lampshades will do to a room.
Yeah,
right?
It really is.
You clean it up a bit. You move a couple pieces of furniture, a couple feet worth, or maybe just swap the room around without actually moving anything out.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you have a completely different feel in there.
Right. Exactly.
So
it's about the flow and about chairs being open to welcome people instead of closed off and
Yep.
So do you tell people on that initial visit your thoughts, or you don't? You kind of just assess?
I'll walk through with them and I give them my thoughts. I take my pictures on my phone just to be able to go back, sit at the computer, look at them, because I always say, what we talk about will be on your report, and I'm going to sit with these photos and just look at if there's anything else that I can point out that would help highlight the features of the house.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're always putting that positive spin on it. Like we're
we're
here to help. We're not here to.
I mean, I've definitely had a couple of people that, they're very adamant about not removing or moving anything, and that's fine. It's just suggestions, and it's I'm going to send you the list anyways, and if you choose to move a few things, it's worth it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just presenting them an opinion.
Right, exactly.
And from your professional standpoint, some guidelines or some would like to haves, and it's up to them to opt in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So do you also do this from a business standpoint? I mean, I know that you're doing it for residential, but do you also, I know that you helped us stylize our space here. But do you try to provide those services to businesses as well from a corporate standpoint?
I haven't been like reaching out for or prospecting for that kind of work. I'm sort of right now at this point. It's been pretty busy with the transactions, and then I had a few sales in the last year that I've just been sort of reacting to the realtors that I've worked with already in the past that reach out and ask me to do a consultation or a staging.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Transaction coordination. Let's talk about that a little bit. Lead me down that path.
Yeah.
What got you involved? And
Matt forced me. No, I'm just kidding.
Matt twisted my arm, pinned me down.
He has a way. He has a way of pitching ideas, and in a mutually beneficial way.
Yes. Yep.
And it's fun working with him.
It is.
And he is an ideas guy. He always has a moving goalpost, which keeps him driven, and it's fantastic to hitch a wagon, right?
Yep.
Sometimes,
Absolutely.
And because he is genuinely a nice, positive, upstanding guy, or at least that's every experience I've had with him.
Absolutely.
It's always a fun ride.
It really is. Yeah. and he honestly, he's very helpful.
Yeah.
When he knows he can, he knows where he needs help.
Yep.
And if it's also going to benefit someone else, like you just said, the mutual beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it works out, it grows.
Yeah.
So I did start. He was looking for a transaction coordinator for himself. So he wanted someone that would be able to react as he would to certain clients and stuff, because he's just always moving and so busy.
Yes.
Really?
A rolling stone gathers no moss.
Exactly. So I was able to step in and answer client questions, or, and still do the transaction work. But, and when he's gone, if the client has a question, then they have my number too,
Right.
So it was sort of just a level above than just a transaction coordinator that would, help get signatures and stuff like that, and remind of dates and all that. So it's really more of a partnership in a way.
Yeah.
Now, are you doing TC only for Matt or other people as well?
Just Matt.
Just Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's busy enough where, that's near a full-time job.
Absolutely. Yep. And so he wanted to be able to step away from certain tasks so that he can just prospect and get more listings.
I'm sure Hannah is thrilled.
Yeah.
I know I can speak firsthand to how much business can consume your day-to-day life.
Yes.
And how it overtakes your family and your marriage, and how appealing it looks like at first, and how septic it can become. I hesitate to use the word toxic, because in the end it is something that on the whole is a good thing in life, where you have business and you have an income and you have that kind of focus, right? Because there's especially if you find it fulfilling, right?
Right.
But it becomes all consuming to the point where your other parts of life start suffering as a result if you don't keep it in check.
You
right?
have to make boundaries.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yep.
I mean, up front, what I started doing with clients and, clients is just saying, I just want to let you know up front, I can't do calls after 6 p.m. or before 8.
Yep.
And if that's the only time that you're going to be able to communicate because of your schedule, maybe I should help you find someone that, can accommodate that.
You need to find someone who's on the complete opposite of that and partner up with them.
Yes.
Because that would be a match made in heaven.
Like here's
right?
Here's
a TC that can go 8 to 6, and here's a TC that can go 6 to 8.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of swap that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, as a TC, what doesn't happen by 6 or 7 p.m. can wait until 8
You're
a.m.
correct.
Yeah. So
because if it doesn't happen by then, it's closed the business for everybody else.
Exactly.
And
the
the worst,
attorneys are done.
Yeah.
The
the only thing that's picking up any changes is maybe MLS.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Because that's just automation and stuff like that.
Right.
You know?
Right. As long as the important documents have been signed and the deposits are on their way.
Yeah. As long as the banks and the attorneys are happy. Right?
Exactly. Yep. So it's been a good role because I can do it from home.
Wonderful.
If I have a sick kid, I can do it.
Yep.
I go into the office most days now.
Yep.
Because it's just nice to be in the office with Matt and with his assistant Tina. Because we can, hey, did you check off this box or whatever, and it's easier than trying to
in-person
get a phone
collaboration
call
is just massive. That's what we've experienced since moving here to this office.
It's great.
Absolutely.
And we have normally Fridays from home and stuff. And, I upset that by coming into the office on Fridays. So everybody comes in too, because I require that. Sorry guys. But genuinely, the amount of interaction that happens on a natural basis is irreplaceable, because if you try to copy that with using some form of back-end communication, we use Slack here.
Oh, we just got the app.
Yeah. And
Let's say started with it. Yeah.
if you guys need any tips or tricks or any coaching on it,
honestly,
we have 3 very thorough professionals who can assist you with that here. But the amount of information and automation that we've integrated into Slack, just through for our own purposes and everything, has been really significant. But even with apps like that, it still doesn't do the same job as being in person does. Right. It just doesn't.
Yeah. So. I mean, just in 1 second, something pops into your head, the phone rings, that's gone. And then, but you could get it out of your mouth in front of someone.
Exactly.
And then,
Remind me to tell you about XYZ after this call.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, back for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Accountability. And it's just even like the day-to-day minutia, right? Like things that we don't think are important and notable become important and notable because it generates ideas and other conversation, right? And it's all of this like law of unintended consequences, right? In a positive way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So you don't know from a creativity standpoint where this energy really originates from.
Right.
And the seed that gets planted through some offhanded comment from a coworker can grow into this entirely new path of business that you never even considered.
Like, now we have a new division.
Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing how many times that happens.
Yeah. I mean, that happened this morning.
That happened this morning. Yeah. I was like, I didn't look at it that way, but like, you're right.
And you can still be, doing whatever else at the same time.
Exactly. Yep.
When I come in here, I feel useless, to be quite frank with you, because the back-end staff, they know their jobs so darn well. And at best, I might have some high-level questions and answers that we need to go over. And every so often, a low-level thing of hey, I need your input on XYZ, or I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, hey, what about this thing?
Yeah.
Every once in a while that happens, but by and large, it's like, you guys have any work for me here? Because I am literally twiddling my thumbs.
Jeremy's like, please give me something
give me something to do.
Please, anything.
Oh, that's the problem, right? Because Oliver's is next door, right?
Yeah.
And I go meander over there. I'm like, baked goods sound good right now, because I have nothing else to do.
Get a
I'm bored.
Yep.
I'm just gonna go get something to
Boredom
eat.
eating is a really big problem for me. Yeah. So I like to stay busy. That's just who I am as an individual. But primarily, busy for me these days is inspiring conversations and trying to help others put their mind in a spot where they can think of solutions more creatively, and see bigger picture elements instead of just focusing on a small detail that they've already got on lockdown.
Yep.
Right. And so it's about people growth for me. And it's hard because I love doing. And so that's not a lot of doing for me. It's just it's conversations, right? Like, what am I even doing? You know, like I talk to people for a living. That just seems like not even a job, right? And so it's hard. There's definitely an identity crisis of sorts there, but the in-office, you cannot replace it.
No, you can't.
Just can't.
It's great.
So, and I love learning about things just through casual conversation. And then, like Dan, I can't remember specifically what it was because I'm already concentrating on this, but Danielle had said something off the cuff and I'm like, I never even considered that thank you so much for saying it. And I'm sure it'll resurrect after this podcast, but it was just one of those things, like, had I not had this general conversation with everybody on the floor, it may have come out in some other fashion. I can't predict that, but it came out in a very casual aha moment fashion where I'm like, I never even considered that item.
Yeah.
And it's important to have those just, collaborative efforts.
Absolutely. So. I find too, I just get into my own head if I work from home or I just, distract myself with dishes or laundry, or it's nice to get out and like have some laughs, like there are times Tina and I go into the office and we've both had a terrible morning or, a frustrating morning, and we end up laughing and going home happy, but if you're just at home with that, it
sits.
You typically don't really come out of it.
And then what happens with your kids?
Yeah. You just get angry at them.
And your spouse and your whole home suffers.
And then you're like, I just need a vacation away from everyone, but just that 1-2 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's restorative. So in the spirit of our podcast, so what's next, right? Like, so the whole, the point in my life is I always move my goalposts, right? Like, and I'm, that's just who I am. And Matt is the same way and stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons why he and I get along as well as we do. But for me, it's about, recognizing where we're at, how we got here, and then using that information to look down the highway a little bit and say, where would we like to go next? Right. Yeah. So this TC thing, is this going to just simply be a part of your life, or is there going to be a scalability factor? What's happening with all of that stuff?
I think that I really enjoy it. It keeps me learning. I mean, things happen in transactions that, as in my realtor shoes, help me with other clients because of something that happened on a deal that I was doing the transaction work on, and or that I can contribute to a transaction. Like, have you thought of this? Oh, no. Oh, that's a great idea. I had that happen, just blah, 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 blah. I really enjoy it. I don't know that I'll expand it beyond Matt. I've thought about it. He's said, go ahead and do it. It's working out right now where it's comfortable enough that I don't need to. And he's growing. I mean, he's getting more and more listings, even in the slow season. So I'd like to see where that goes.
Sure.
And just keep, I had a little rough time over the last couple of years, and I'm starting to just kind of like come back to life.
Yeah.
In real estate too. I mean, I was kind of down for a while, so I felt like I couldn't truly help people with their transactions, in a client base.
Yeah.
It's a very serious, emotional ride for the clients.
For sure.
And I have to be 100% to be able to do that.
No, I totally understand that. I've been like that too. And, certain parts of your life, you just can't give what you want to give.
Exactly.
You gotta
need to repair
that. Yeah,
you can't give what you barely have right now.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
No, and I feel that deeply.
Yeah.
Like, I get that.
Yeah. So,
and it's awesome that you recognize that, you're meeting yourself where you're at,
Yes. Yep.
So that's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's lying to people and lying to yourself if you don't kind of just stop and rein it in, and
it's going to come out.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
It can't be in a good way
when it stays different.
For anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you've always struck me as a high integrity individual, and that would definitely be outside of the realm of your values.
It would.
So.
Yeah. I have to be able to be there and be like on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So real estate, transaction work. And then, I mean, the staging, like I said, it's sort of just reactionary right now, but, after the holidays, the new year, I'm still kind of sitting down and making goals for the new year. I haven't actually even done it yet.
Well, that's good because it's only November. I would feel bad if you did.
Sit down.
It's only November.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Exactly.
My client yesterday already had. Just saying.
I mean, there are some planners.
I'm messing with you. I'm not messing with you. It's true. However, I'm not casting shade.
We are very resilient. I know that for a fact. And we will get there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The important part is that it happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
you
so
don't
much
need
the
to
when.
have a foreplan.
It's that
Yes. No, you
you
don't.
are open to opportunity.
Yeah.
You're open to life adjustments and not necessarily see where the wind blows, but understand the changing of the tides and remaining responsive to those life shifts that happen.
Right, exactly.
And life shifts are also business shifts and market shifts and all this kind of other stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So just a thought.
Yeah.
When you're going to sit down and talk about next year, I'd love to sit and talk with you.
Yeah.
Outside of a podcast environment and
Sure.
kind of, maybe see where your mind is at and see if there's any alignment.
Okay.
Because it's really about partnerships and relationships and how, not a you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing, but like, how can we truly support
Right.
our vendor partners? How can we truly support those who are involved in economical or industrial pursuits?
Right.
And you don't know what's kicking around in someone's brain
Right.
for ideas. And all it takes is blurting something out at random.
Yeah.
And it hits different for other people, like just sitting in an office talking about
Right.
those kinds of things. I'd love to pick your brain.
Yeah. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are for, next steps and next levels too.
The sky is the limit.
Yeah, exactly.
My horizon is so wide. I don't like to limit myself to a given set of circumstances or ideas.
Yep.
I know what we're capable of today. However, I also know that it's not about what we could be capable of tomorrow so much as who is necessary to bring on board in order to achieve this wacky idea that we think has some future.
Yep.
Right. And it's not even so much on board as far as like, who can I give a W-2 employment to, but who can I align with that allows us to grow in a way mutually that we would have never thought possible if we just remained by ourselves.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to for me, and
Yep.
it is a relationship driver. And, that's why I am a huge proponent of Kristen going out and doing networking events and really interfacing with people that have absolutely nothing to do with Madore photography or Next Level, but she's still rubbing elbows and not just simply because, I know so-and-so, but she comes back with like these ideas that have nothing to do with what we're doing.
Right.
And they just really bolster our total life. Right.
Yep.
And that's really what it comes down to. It's a whole life perspective.
Right.
It's not about money.
It's a spark.
That's it.
It's like an excitement.
And
and
you
a
and I
spark.
have had that since the beginning.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like we totally feed off of each other's energy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast. I'm like, we have to get her back in here.
Yeah.
Because you bring life to like the space that you're in. Like I felt that from the minute I, kind of reconnected with you, and it was like, you're somebody that we want on our side. Like when we had that clothing shoot, like that was such a good couple days that we had with you.
That was really fun.
I remember like you, me, and Keith, like just bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's
Absolutely.
the people you want in your corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're not going to find those people unless you go out and interact. And like we say all the time, you're constantly interviewing people, even though you don't know it.
It's true.
To try to, feel them out. And there's certain people, and you're one of them that you just connect with. And you're like, you have that drive and you have that resilience and you have that energy that I just love, and I want more of, you know.
That's awesome.
So
Thank you.
we would absolutely
I feel
love
that
to
way
work
too
with
about
you.
guys. Yeah. We always just like when we were doing the playing around with different products and stuff, and just, the ideas they were flying, and we were
It was
having
such
a
a
great
good
time.
vibe.
And
Yeah. We gotta get some more of those shoots.
We do. I love to take on new and interesting ways of doing things. Keith loves a good challenge because it keeps his mind sharp. I love a good challenge because it keeps my mind sharp. And it's not even so much like becoming an expert in a specific thing as much as having exposure to it and realizing that you didn't know nearly as much as you probably wanted to. Right. Or like, before someone even brings up a topic of discussion, you don't know what's in their head.
Right.
And so learning about everything that pours forth is a whole adventure and discovery packaged into a small 1 hour conversation.
Yeah.
And that's life, man.
It is.
Yeah,
That's
just
life.
learning,
so cool.
learning all of that stuff. Like I didn't know half the things that you knew about styling. I was like, what is she doing with the paper? She's like sticking the paper in the sleeves. I was like, what is she doing? But it was so cool to just be in the same room as you. Like I was like absorbing all of this,
Seeing a master at work.
It's like, no, it's just cool. It's like, and I think that's what I love most about Next Level is we're just doing it. We're just embracing it and we're doing it, and it's exciting. Mm-hmm. It's really exciting.
And I think that just the name Next Level too is like, it is what's next. It's you have no limits. You have no, you're not in a category. You're not, headshots. You're not, whatever. It's it's all of it.
It's commercial multimedia production. Mm-hmm. You need somebody with a camera or a video camera or a drone or some other visual arts, capacity. We're here.
Right.
We're here. There's no box.
Right. Exactly.
But it's the people connection that I love the most. It's like the best days that I've had of work ever have been those full day shoots that you are getting in the mind of somebody else and learning and teaching them in the process how amazing they are. Like people don't even know. Like they're like, what? Like I don't.
And then it feels like it wasn't even a full day.
No.
You're like,
No,
it's so great.
like,
Can we keep going? Yeah. Can we come back tomorrow?
I spent the day getting to know somebody, and it didn't feel like work because what you're doing at that point is you're just kind of putting yourself in their shoes for a day. Yeah. And you get to live this alter ego of sorts, for lack of a better term. And you spend this amount of time really just kind of hyper jumping down a rabbit hole, just temporarily onboarding with someone else's way of life, their personality, their business, their everything. Mm-hmm. And it's just this wonderful breath of fresh air because it just breathes new life into tomorrow for yourself, because now you know a little bit more about someone else's day to day. Right. And it just gives you a whole new level of respect for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And absolutely.
Like you were saying, like, we all have bad days and we all have bad times and we all have bad years, but it's like, it's that collaboration with good people and like people who genuinely care. Right. And that's what this business is really built on. It's like, we care about people. Like we want you to get out there and show yourself and not, it's not about being perfect. No. It's like not like share those things with people, because you know what? You said that to me and I'm like, oh my God, I remember those days. I still have those days. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that makes you real and authentic. And it's huge. And totally like, you're my people. You know what I mean? It's not about getting on camera and being like, you're the most beautiful human in the world because of your looks.
Perfect.
Like, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
I think, and that's a huge point is talking about the times, because there's, I grew up very, nobody wants to know your problems kind of thing. And I always held stuff in. Yeah.
Don't air your dirty laundry.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like no one cares anyway, you're just bothering people kind of a thing. Yeah. But I've found it to be so healing. Well, I found it to be a catalyst in the beginning to, it's okay, you'll be okay. Like, do it. Go. Yeah. You got to look at the future and happiness and whatever. Yeah. And
the other side of something doesn't ever look like what you expect it to.
Right. Exactly.
No matter how close you play your cards.
Right. Yep.
Period.
Yeah.
All right. People think that by withholding how they truly feel about something, that they're doing anybody a service. Yeah. And really what it comes down to is the detrimental effects of doing that is only going to hamper everybody's ability to grow. Right. And the sooner we realize that, the more real we are with ourselves and with others. Yep. And by real, I'm talking honesty here. Right. I'm not talking about like being a jerk about things, right? We're talking about being a legitimate human being and exposing our, inner thoughts and saying, look, this is me. Yep. Do you still love me? Or do you still want to do business with me? Or do you still want to grow with me? Right. It doesn't matter where in life you're talking. Yep. As long as we're coming across in a manner that is consistent with the values that we've presented, and we're not just becoming a different person overnight kind of thing. Right. I think that alignment can't be argued with.
Yeah.
and it's really important because as soon as you do that, you'll experience a level of growth that you would have never thought possible because you yourself are actually the one holding it back.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
On this podcast, we pull a card from here, and a lot of it is like
Not trivia, is it?
No.
Okay. Not at all.
It's an open-ended question. You can refuse a question and pick another one if you don't like it.
Okay.
Some of them probe a little personal. Others are a little bit more topical.
Okay.
But feel
Did
free
you
to
plant one?
No.
Oh, it opens from the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually the first gateway right there, whether or not you can get the box open.
Okay, this is looking ahead to the upcoming year. On what do you want to spend less time? That's a good question. I think I'm an overthinker. I can go too deep into something.
We're all in this company here. Don't worry about it.
That's why we're shaking our heads like, oh, you are our
It's
people.
legit.
Yeah.
So,
But what if?
like going down a rabbit hole that's actually never going to happen,
Yeah.
and being like feeling it and like that it's real is probably something that I need to spend less time on.
Okay.
And I have been. I've been.
I love that.
Getting better at it, but
Yeah.
it's still there.
Do you have any structures in place that helps remind you to not do that?
Not really. I just, when I start to feel, I was for a while having terrible anxiety attacks, like to the point of on the floor, not breathing. And
My goodness.
it's like just life changes have helped. And when I start to feel that, and my boyfriend Tyson is, he's a wonderful, balanced man, and has been helping so much over the last couple of years with everything. And also just sort of saying to me, like, when you start to feel that tightness or that breath or whatever, just breathe through it and don't let yourself go down. Don't get the visual thoughts that are going to like lead you down the whole path of, whatever.
Yep.
So that's basically, the way that I kind of handle that is just
That's wonderful that you have him.
Yeah. He's
really
also was at Fitchburg State.
He's also a Fitchburg State guy.
All stuff comes full circle.
Yeah, it really does.
Honestly.
It's such a small world. And
is.
the older you get, you just
smaller
run
it
in.
gets.
Yeah, the smaller it gets for sure.
Yep. And you realize how long-term investments in interpersonal relationships truly play out, right? And I think that one of the things that the tech way of life has taken from us, or we've surrendered to it, maybe I think is the best way to say it, is that we've traded long-term relationships for short-term results. And I think that the sooner we migrate back to long-term results with long-term relationships, the better we're going to be as a community,
Right.
Local and national.
Absolutely. That's something that I've, as you're talking about that, in my mind, I've got Matt, Nate, my core group of friends, all from elementary school on.
Yep.
Of course, I have friendships that I have, in the last few years or whatever, but that core group of people, it's sort of, when you're saying get the interpersonal connections, those are people that stick, you always kind of end up coming back around, and the relationships are so valued and and are so deep that that's the support system. And I do think that kids growing up now, their world is huge. Growing up at St. Bernard's and even Fitchburg State, there was nowhere else to reach.
Sure.
Yeah, that's actually
You're
a really
in
good
your
point.
community.
Yeah.
You didn't know what someone was doing in Japan or, whatever.
No.
Or, getting, there were obviously, phone pranks and stuff, but like,
Right.
I miss those days.
I do too.
I miss
Or
those
like
days.
picking up the other line upstairs.
Yes.
And then,
Oh,
then
man.
being like, haha,
Yeah.
you're a loser.
Yeah. I remember when caller ID first came out, right? Or when
And you could not answer the phone.
right, you could opt out, right?
Yeah.
Or there was the on hold and call waiting, right?
Yep.
Those were big game changers.
That was huge,
right?
yeah.
But now you can be an absolute like FBI detective on random individuals with very minimal effort, right? And there's some real dangers associated with that
yes.
because you come up with those presumptions of what somebody else is or who somebody else is without actually taking the time to really roll up your sleeves and get nitty gritty and learn about them through experience. You know? And
social media bullying and,
oh, very much.
For kids growing up, I'm afraid of that. I mean, the boys don't have Facebook or anything like that. I mean, they have, like Facebook Messenger with my nieces and that kind of little stuff.
Same with our kids.
Yeah. But, I worry for them once they get into like middle and high school and
it's real.
Yeah, it's real.
It's insane.
It's real because people are opting to go for the quick fix on things instead of like taking the time.
Right. Exactly.
And that's, back into the, long-term results kind of thing, and you gotta be patient, right? And you can't, jump to conclusions and arrive at short-term solutions because short-term solutions might get you out of the immediate problem, but you need to find a long-term fix, to, how you go about doing things. And we need to teach our kids better, on how to do that as well, you know, and, Kristen's kids seem to have turned out phenomenally.
Excellent.
And in spite of some really challenging odds,
they did.
But that doesn't happen accidentally.
No, it doesn't.
We raise our kids on purpose. We conduct our businesses on purpose. And if we don't do that, we need to take a stern look at ourselves in the mirror and realize what we need to be doing better.
Absolutely. And it's about not being selfish and not just doing it for money and not just, you think, like you said, think about the future and think about long-term and set them up.
And don't be afraid to make those short-term sacrifices for the long-term benefit.
Right.
And a lot of people make long-term sacrifices that they're willing to not know about or not give credence to because that's tomorrow. That's next year. I'll be at a different place in life. And they just keep themselves hamstrung or they keep themselves limited because everything is a short-term fix. And they never play the long game.
Right.
And I think that as businesses, as people, as spouses, as, partners in life, we really need to, really take a look at the bigger picture and not go down these rabbit holes that you're talking about of these, worst case scenarios, the overthinking anything, because a lot of times the answer's staring at you right in the face and we just need to be honest. And we need to be honest with ourselves and others enough to just call it what it is.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
I think that's the most important thing that I did with my kids is I showed them the raw me. I didn't pretend that I was something that I wasn't. Yeah. And I think in life, that's the biggest thing we can teach them is it's like they've seen me overcome things. Like they can overcome things because they know I have, you know, like it's, there are days that I cried in front of them. I didn't pretend that this wasn't hard. Whatever you're going through, like just share that with them and know that you're always there. And no matter what,
and that they're helping you. That they're
absolutely
part of, they're part of your support.
And,
that kids, they know and feel whether or not they have value. They know
100%.
And it's not because they did a chore. It's because they understand what their genuine long-term role is in life. Not really thinking that big themselves consciously because they're not there yet.
Right.
But they know when they don't have value because they're being overlooked because of a more simplified short-term solution. If you make your children part of your long-term goals, and that doesn't mean your plan. Right. That means an us plan. Right. They don't know how to interpret that, but their heart does.
But they feel it.
Yeah. Right. Yep. And that's where despair and anxiety and depression really start creating a breeding ground. Because if they don't feel valued in basic day-to-day tasks, how can they possibly understand the bigger picture of what they bring to this world,
Right.
let alone your house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
We could.
On the way that our kids
Want to
are
spend one more
growing.
night in town?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. I'd love to, but I have a family
Yes.
who has immense value to me,
Absolutely.
and it's always it's a good sacrifice to come here for a few days and get get a lot of stuff done with the team in the back end. But I drive home just as fast as I drive down here, and I'm proud to be able to say that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, because we are intentionally creating a home environment where our children are experiencing what their values are, and what their intrinsic values are.
Right.
And that way, when they get asked one day, what do you want to spend less time or more time on next year, they can formulate a genuine, honest answer, and be real with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're not creating individuals who are in it for themselves
Right.
or short-sighted. We're looking for, raising adults that really have a wider view and a community that they want to support and who wants to support them back.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
and you're doing
That's
that
great.
well. You're doing that well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Guys
being
too.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank you.
being here.
Thank you so much.
Being part
It's
of
always a pleasure.
us,
I
so.
really enjoy it. I hope people enjoy
We do.
Absolutely.
all of the conversations.
We do.
Yeah. I think it's
sure.
all relatable. I mean, I think everyone can feel something from
Yeah.
Sure.
having-
100%.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Sure. Thank you, Thea.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you so much.